Well, welcome everybody.
This meeting is being recorded.
Welcome everybody to our second night of breakout sessions for CUSD's College Fair. We are so excited to have all of you with us to learn more about going to school out of state at an affordable rate through the Western Undergraduate Exchange. If you are here for that presentation, you are in the right place. My name is B. Nguyen. I am a college and career counselor with CUSD-Futureology. I'm joined here with my colleague, Mrs. Nicole Rengifo, and we have a very special guest here to present to all of our families this evening on the Western Undergraduate Exchange. We have here with us Lisa Harsh from the University of Wyoming, and she will be presenting to you tonight on this super awesome and interesting topic that's very kind of pertinent to our student population. So with that, I'm going to pass this off to Lisa to take us away with this presentation. Thank you and welcome, Lisa.
Thank you, B. Thank you, Nicole. I'm very excited this afternoon to speak to you more about the Western Undergraduate Exchange, also known as WUI. So you'll get to hear a lot of acronyms when you're starting your college search process. So tonight we're going to talk about how to create some affordable options for all of you students. I love this map because one, it shows all the neat logos of every, almost, not every, but a bulk of the majors of the schools around the country. And I want to talk to you more about why would you consider going out of state for your university experience. And first of all, I'm going to talk about some of the majors are impacted. An example of that would be high demand majors like nursing, pharmacy, a lot of health majors. So in certain states, it's hard to get into these programs because they are in such high demand, which will be fun for you to look out of state for some more options. Also, specialized programs are not always offered in your home state. Examples of that might be turf management, marine biology. So those type of programs are not available in every state. And then I also like to talk about the affordability of going out of state, and that will include us talking about the WUI scholarship this evening. And then what's really nice about going out of state is you'll be exposed to more companies for future jobs and internships. So another thing to think about. And then one thing that's fun about going out of state to a university is becoming aware of different kind of culture, different parts of the country with different weather. There's just so many neat things that you can explore. I'm from the University of Wyoming, and if you haven't been to Yellowstone or the Jackson Hole area, which are kind of our hot tourism spots, each state can bring you to their beautiful national parks and other locations in their state for you to see more of the world. Another good advantage of going out of state is it does give you independence from your families. And my own two children, they went out of state for college, and I really saw them spread their wings. I know it sounds cheesy, but they really did fly out of the nest, and it was fun for my family and I to travel to see them. Here are some Western Undergraduate Exchange buzzwords. Some of these you may have heard of, some of them might be new to you this evening, so I will explain each of them. The first word is reciprocity, and an example of that would be an adjacent state that is partnering on a tuition reduction. I can give you an example. The students at New Mexico State University, if they're from Arizona, they can pay in-state New Mexico rate for that university. Another example is the students in Wyoming, they can get the border bonus partnership rate, and they can pay in-state tuition at Black Hill State, which is in Spearfish, South Dakota. So those are just some examples of reciprocity, and you'll want to definitely check and see if there's any um, programs like that around your state. Residency. This is always a tricky one because each university has their own residency rules. and they can be very complicated. Most of the time, you will want to reach out to the registrar office, and they also have like appeal processes that you can go through. But it is very hard to get residency in another state. But you may check into states that have maybe some less strict rules. Scholarship retention. This is something good to think about because you might get a really big scholarship your first year of your university experience, and you'll want to make sure that you retain that into your sophomore, junior, senior year. Each school is going to have different application processes, guidelines on how to retain that scholarship. So that would be a good question to ask when you're researching colleges and talking to admissions counselors and recruiters. You may have heard of these two topics, test optional and test blind. When the pandemic hit, when COVID was, in our world, there was a lot of universities that decided to go test optional because students were not able to get into test sites in person for their SAT or ACT test. So there's a huge list of universities that will let you apply to their university without a test score. And then test blind means they will not look at a test score. So do check that out. Some universities don't have a test score to be admitted, but they may need an SAT or ACT test for their scholarships. Renewable scholarships are kind of what we talked about earlier, where you're going to want to make sure to see what the rules are to retain your scholarship from year to year. An example might be that you need full-time status at all times, which for most universities, that's 12 credits per semester. And they might have a GPA requirement that you need to keep. So both of those items I want you to check into. Super score. Now, this is where if students would take an ACT or an SAT test on different dates, and then after those 2 dates of test scores, they would pick out their subject areas and they would pick their highest scores, and they would make that into a super score. Not all colleges do take super scores, so you'll want to definitely ask that question. I get asked that question a lot. And if you do retake your test scores and they allow the super score, just try your hardest in all of the different categories because it can make the score higher than your composite score. Let's talk a little bit about major restriction. There are certain universities that restrict the WUI scholarship for certain majors. Years ago, I was aware that in the state of Idaho, their health fields were so popular, they weren't allowing the WUI scholarship for some of those nursing programs, radiology programs, pre-med programs. So I'm not sure what that is now in that state, but you'll definitely want to check. Another is pharmacy at some schools. That's a major that they restrict for the WUI scholarship, but not all universities. So it does it does want you to do your homework and make sure that you can check in to see what their rules are. October 1st was a big day. That is when the FAFSA document opened. And I want to explain what FAFSA means because these are another buzzword in higher education. It is the free application for federal student aid. And this online application, which it is free, it will show if you're eligible for any Pell Grants, which you never have to pay back, or loans at a discounted interest rate, or work study positions on your campus. Now, these would be federal work study jobs, and campuses also do have work study jobs not tied to the FAFSA document, to the federal aid. So there still would be work study positions or jobs on your campus. But if you're eligible for the federal work study, there's different requirements and different amount of hours that you can have each semester or each week based off your FAFSA document. Okay, so this is an exciting time in your life. You're starting to do your college search. I remember being there years ago and doing lots of campus visits and lots of research. and loved hearing where my friends were looking. But I want to talk about academics first, because you do want to make sure that the university that you're looking at, or a few of them that you're looking at, that they have the major and degree of study that you want to go into. So, for example, years ago, I was working with a student who really wanted to go to MSU, Bozeman, Montana, loved Montana State, but when we looked up the major, they did not have it. So it was a sad day because she really wanted to go there. And I just wanted to make sure that you definitely look and see that the university has your program of study. And you'll want to check into the accreditation also of the university and its program. Location, location, location. So we talk about this a lot when you're buying a house, but it's also very, very good to do this when you're picking your university or college, and the size. And you also want to think about, what do you want the community size to be? Do you want your university in a large city, a suburban area, a rural area? Um, Close to an airport. So, size and location are very big when it comes to choosing a college. We'll also talk about student to faculty ratio. And some of the smaller colleges might have a 14-to-1 student faculty ratio, others might have 50-to-1. But that is something to pay attention to if you want to really get to know your professors and meet them at their office hours, do research with them. So you'll definitely want to make sure that you check into the ratio. And if a larger university fits you better, then that's awesome. And if you'd rather go to a smaller one with a smaller community, make sure you check that out when you're on your campus visit. Student life is so fun. I've worked in higher education almost 30 years, and student life can mean a lot of things. It can mean what happens in your residence halls with programming and socials that you can partake in. It could mean like Greek organizations with fraternities, sororities. It could mean, how many clubs does the university have? Some colleges have 100, some have up to 300. Usually, you can even make your own club if you can't find a club on your campus. Student government, that's always fun to be a part of on a campus. And then, if you want to be a part of any of the athletics, choir, band, speech and debate, the sky's the limit. There's so much you can do on a college campus. So make sure when you do your research or a visit that you ask all about what their most popular clubs are and how you can get involved. I keep talking about campus visit because it is so important for you to see if you fit on that college campus. When I was touring years ago as a younger person, I just remember I loved looking at the residence halls, the dining hall. I wanted to make sure that, the safety of the campus. Could I bring a bike? Did I need a car? So when you're on these campus visits, sometimes you can even ask if you could sit in on a class. So I think that's worth asking. And then typically you'll meet with the admissions staff, financial aid scholarships. You can even be where you can meet with an advisor if they have that part of their visit program. You'll definitely have the campus tour, and that's one of my favorite parts. And they're usually around an hour, so bring some good walking shoes. And if you can partake in like a theater or a musical event or a football game, basketball game, volleyball game, whatever you like, see if you can fit some entertainment into your visit. And then I can't stress enough, make sure you also look at the community. Go to their downtown area, go to their restaurants, go to their shopping areas, and you'll really get a feel if the community is a good fit for you. The application process is different for every university. With some, you'll apply on the Common App or on their website. And you also could see if you need to do essays, an interview. Some of the private colleges have different items for you to do. If you're going to apply to an honors program, that could be a separate application or part of their main application. There could be a fee. I've seen fees anywhere from $10 up to like $500. So do save your money for the application fees. And then When we're talking about cost of attendance, that can mean different things to different universities. Some of them will give you the whole package of everything from tuition, room, your meal plan, your fees, your personal expenses that you might have, your travel, your books and supplies, lab expenses. So when you're asking for that full cost of attendance, that could be broken down for you and you'll be able to see the direct cost involved and the indirect cost. And those indirect costs will be variable based off the student's needs and just anything else that would be involved with their own personal lives. We're now going to start into more about the Western Undergraduate Exchange Scholarship and also a little bit more about how to apply for scholarships. Okay, so first of all, you're going to start hearing this more, the term WUI, and it is a partnership of the Western Interstate Commission of Higher Education, which we call WICHE. So you're going to hear a lot about WUI, WICHE. But basically, what this WUI scholarship is about is affordable tuition options for students. And we have about 16 different members that are part of the WUI. And the rate is 150% of in-state tuition. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. And it is available at public post-secondary education institutions. And there's over 160. And there's also about 70 plus community colleges that are also involved. So I wanted to make sure you know this is for community college and four-year degrees. What WUI is not is this list. It's not in-state tuition. It's not guaranteed at every university. It's not a reciprocal program. It's not automatic at all universities. It's also not always available to every major offered at the institution, so it can be very major specific. It's not the same as residency, and it's not eligible at every school in the WUI states because it's not offered at private schools. So I wanted you to kind of get a little bit of information about WUI before we go to the next slide. Okay, so here are the Western states that are part of the Western Undergraduate Exchange. So you'll see everywhere from Washington, New Mexico, a little bit into the Midwest with North Dakota, South Dakota. And then we do have Alaska, Hawaii, Guam, and the Northern Mariana Islands. So these are the states that are eligible to be a part of WUI. And then remember, each university has different WUI requirements, and some even have requirements based on the major. So if you're asked what WUI tuition rate is, it is your in-state tuition, which you can find on the websites for each college, and then you will take that times 1.5%, and this will be your WUI rate. So it's a real easy calculation, and the next slide will show us a little bit more. Okay, so for example, if the in-state tuition at the university you're looking at or the community college is $12,000, you would take that times 1.5 and the WUI rate would be 18,000. Now an out-of-state cost could be a lot higher than that. So the WUI rate is a lot more affordable for families and students. And the average savings for students that do utilize the WUI is around $10,895. Okay, so applying now, how do you get WUI? This is a great question I get a lot. There's not one general WUI application for all of these states and islands. Many of the WICHE's partner institutions use WUI as part of their merit scholarship program. So when you're applying, make sure you look on the website for the WUI requirements. There's usually early deadlines. Sometimes there's a first come, first serve type program because many of the schools have a limited number of WUI awards. And then there could be a separate application. Not all schools have a separate one, but you'll want to check. And then they may look at your minimum grade point average, unweighted or weighted. And then they may look at your SAT or ACT scores. And then remember, there could be restrictions on the major that you're looking at. Okay, so lots of ways to get scholarships and some aid to attend school. I always like to point out, first of all, the merit academic scholarships that are available through each university. So keep your grades high in high school. And then there's also opportunities for private scholarships. And it's even important to look don't ever pay for a scholarship application, but even look and see if you have family members that work at an organization that might have a scholarship. You may have your guidance counselor at your high school, your career and college coordinator may have a list of scholarships for you to look into. Um, there's lots and lots of search engines, but like I said, don't ever pay to sign up for a scholarship. And then importantly, make sure you look at your state and local scholarships. A lot of those are available at your high schools that you can check into. But examples of that could be your local Rotary Club, Kiwanis Club, um, big scholarships like through Coke or Pepsi. There's just so many ways that you can look for scholarships. And then don't forget that October 1st of every year that you'll be in college, the FAFSA document will open. And the deadlines do vary by school, but it does open up October 1st. And I highly recommend filling that out right away because some students are even eligible for an SEOG grant, and that is for students who have higher need of from their family income. And if you apply early, those schools may be able to give you some other grant aid also that you never have to pay back. Okay, here's some questions. I get these a lot. Is WUI stackable? So that question is asking, can you stack other scholarships on top of the Western Undergraduate Exchange? And this is a very, it's a question that's not black and white. It depends. And it's because some institutions will allow stacking and other ones might not. So it does depend on each individual university or community college. Do you need to apply for the Western Undergraduate Exchange? And earlier you probably heard me say that that also depends. Each college has a different way of deciding who will be eligible for the WUI scholarship. Some of them may have a separate application. Some of them may go off your grade point average. Some of them might automatically give you the Western Undergraduate Exchange based off your grades and a test score or one or the other. But it does depend, and that will be up to you to find out for each university or college how they handle that. Great question. Can I use WUI for a graduate program? Again, the answer, it depends. Some universities will allow for you to use some of your Western Undergraduate Exchange for a graduate program. Um, Others will not. So WUI is good for 4 years. And I guess it will depend on if that university lets you start that later rather than right away your first year. I don't know of the programs that have this offered, but it's definitely worth you checking into. And then the requirements for WUI is kind of a review. It definitely depends. Every university and college is different. And I just highly recommend that you start checking now before you apply because it is such an awesome option for students to get more affordable tuition through the WUI program. Renewable. Is WUI renewable? It's good for only 4 years, and typically it's not good for summer sessions. So I would definitely check into that, like when you have to start the WUI and if it would go on further into a graduate program. I have not seen it ever for summer courses. And if you're starting at a community college and you're transferring to a university, um, definitely check and see if that university has WUI eligibility for transfer students. There are universities that only have it for first year students and not transfer. So that I saw the question in the Q&A, and I definitely want to make sure that you know that you can try to see if you could um, get that at your next university. So it doesn't mean if you got it at your community college that you will get it at your university. It's going to be based off each individual institution. Okay, does having WUI change my residency? It does not, unfortunately. So when you become a college student, you will be coded based off of the state that you came from, where you went to high school. So you can check into residency rules at each institution, but typically, if you're considered the rate for the WUI tuition break, then that will not allow you to change to that state's residency. So that's an excellent question. Okay, so if you want more information, and I was on this website all week, I was just checking it out more because I've used it a lot in the past. But if you go to the www.wichi.edu/WUI, you can find out lots more information. Many of the schools, I just wanted to remind you, partake with the WUI um, rate, but you definitely want to check and see what their different rules are for receiving it and how to maintain it. So I wanted to make sure that you know that there's some different kind of rules out there for each of the majors. And then I wanted to also remind you that with the WUI scholarship, they may need you to stay full-time status at that institution, which would be 12 credits or more per semester, or full-time status each quarter. So make sure you look into that also for your maintaining it. And yeah, so that's a great website for you to check out. Okay, this is my contact information. I'm one of the admissions counselors at the University of Wyoming. I'm based in Arizona. I'm a regional recruiter, and I'm happy at this time to answer any of your questions.
Thank you so much, Lisa. We do have a question for you.
Okay.
In the Q&A, it says, so you say it depends. So do I apply at college first, then look into WUI, or do I look to see if the school participates first, then apply?
Oh, I love that question. Now, you could do it one of both ways. You could go ahead and apply and then see if they would offer up that information. But in the meantime, I would highly recommend you go out on their website or contact the admissions office about their WUI requirements. If you're really looking for a more affordable tuition rate, it's such a good idea to go ahead and do the research ahead of time.
And this is what the website looks like for everybody who's interested, right? And you can search for schools based on the state that you're interested in. So let's say you want to go to Colorado or Arizona, right? If you selected that, you can also select that you're looking for a bachelor's degree because you're a first-time college student. And for student status, for those of you who had a question about can I transfer, can I not? If you did want to transfer, you would select transfer only when you're ready to transfer. But for now, all of you are first-time freshmen, right? And so you would select that. And if you did that, they would curate a list for you based on your parameters. And you'll see here that these are all of the Arizona and Colorado schools that participate in WUI. And you'll see all of the majors that you can apply to that would be that would qualify under the WUI scholarship, right? So you can see if your major of choice is approved, which is super cool. You'll see right off the bat what the WUI tuition is, and this is just a little bit more than UC tuition, right? UCs are at 13,000 right now about. And then if you click on the school itself, you'll be able to see more details about WUI at that institution. And on the right-hand side, you'll see any special deadlines you might have to meet or eligibility requirements. And of course, always go to the school's WUI website to get more details. Yeah. Any other questions for Lisa?
You guys have been amazing. I'm happy that you're looking at colleges right now, and yeah, just have so much fun for your search. It's one of the best times of your life.
It is. And this is such a good option for our students who want something more than California, right? Who want to get out of here. This is a great affordable option. And I think somebody has a question. They might be working on typing it. Here's a
Okay.
question. Is the process the same if you choose to transfer from a community college? Lisa, did you want to take that?
Yeah. So I was a transfer coordinator in my past life, and so that's when I became a kind of a WUI expert years ago. So each university that you're looking to transfer to, again, is going to have different requirements. So look on their website, and if you can't find the information, feel free to contact their admissions office. They may even have a rule that they want you to have an associate degree before you transfer in order to get the WUI, but that's not always the case. But it is the same. You will do your research and you'll check into their website. And I love that B showed you how to, look on our Witchy website because it really does give you great information. Yeah, so you'll definitely want to. It could be totally different from your community college where you might have automatically got the WUI. Your transfer university might have a lot more rules and guidelines.
Thank you, Lisa. Another question that we have is, if our child goes in with WUI tuition, what if they change their mind of their major later on? Is there ever a chance that money would have to be paid back if a major change is made to a major that doesn't have WUI privileges?
Oh, that's a great, excellent question.
That is.
So I would ask that ahead of time because again, that's going to depend on the institution. So if you go in and the major says yes, it's WUI eligible, and then you switch that 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 next semester that you've switched your major, they might have you go to paying out of state rate, which will be a lot higher. So and I changed my major quite a few times in college, so that I love that question because you don't want to be caught off guard if your tuition rate goes soaring up.
That is a great question. I mean, luckily, I mean, if we're just looking at Northern Arizona on the screen, right? I mean, they have so many eligible majors. So, in many cases, the likelihood of that other major that your child switches into being also WUI eligible it could be quite high, right? Depending on the school, because so many of the schools have so many eligible majors, but definitely ask the institution.
Mhm. And then if you have for parents, if you have other children looking at the same college a few years later, don't assume that the WUI rules will stay the same. They can change from year to year. And I found that out when I was working at a community college that you'll want to every year look and see if there's changes with scholarships at universities and their WUI guidelines.
Thank you for that. Any other questions? We have a couple more minutes where we can definitely have the space and time for you to ask your questions. We do have 2 more breakout sessions this evening for the college fair. Our next presentation will be on career technical education in college, which will be really interesting. And then we have our final presentation of the breakout sessions, which will be the college admissions parent orientation. But any other questions, don't be shy. You have an expert here with you, so please take advantage of this time. And of course, if you don't have any questions, you're welcome to excuse yourself to log off. We hope to see you in our subsequent sessions of the evening, but I wanted to take this opportunity to thank Lisa for your time. I know you're so busy, so we really appreciate you presenting to our families. It was invaluable information, and this will be recorded and posted for our families to watch at a later time as well.
Excellent. And I enjoyed being at your fair the other night too. It was so nice to meet the families and the students.
Thank you so much. It was a great first in-person fair back after 2 years of a virtual fair. So it was wonderful. Is WUI going to add more states? Gosh, I don't think that they are considering adding more states to my knowledge. Lisa?
No, I have not heard that any other states, but I like that question.
Yeah. I mean, it is the Western Undergraduate Exchange. So they are, I mean, it is inclusive of most of the Western states, you know, in the country. So I can't imagine that they're considering adding more. It'd be nice if they did, but
Yeah.
I don't foresee that happening anytime soon.
Yeah.
Oh, more colleges. Okay. Is WUI considering adding
Oh,
more colleges? Gosh, I don't know either. I'm not sure if they'll
yeah.
be adding any more colleges. It is for public, right? If I'm not mistakenly, the
Yep.
public institutions, so public schools.
Mhm.
So each state only has a certain number of public state institutions, right? For example, we have the Cal states in California that participate in WUI. So those are typically not going to change state to state. So it is inclusive of the public universities only.
Yeah. I totally agree, B. I think it'll stay around that same number.
Are there any states that have reciprocity with California? Yeah, so California is part of the Western Undergraduate Exchange. So students coming in from, if I'm understanding your question correctly, Jennifer, I mean, if students from Colorado or Nevada or Hawaii want to come to California, they would have reciprocity at some of our public institutions, including the Cal States, for example, and some of our community colleges as well. And Kristen, to answer your question in the chat, we will not have another college fair anytime soon. Unfortunately, we have an annual college fair. So our next college fair will be in the fall. There might be some mini college fairs coming up in the spring, but that is to be determined at this point, and that might be site specific depending on the high school. Local fairs, yes, Kristen. Check out J. Sarah. So J. Sarah Private School has their college fair coming up on October 11th. I believe that is next Tuesday. They have 175 colleges attending their college fair. It's open to the public. So if anybody's interested in going to another round of college fairs, J. Sarah is hosting their fair next Tuesday. And you can find information on their website. Okay, my friends. Well, if we don't have any other questions, oh, we do have one more. You're welcome, Kristen. So are the schools listed on the witchy.edu site showing yearly tuitions or per semester? That's annual tuition. So what you're seeing is the yearly tuition. Great question. Well, beautiful. And Lisa, thank you again for an awesome presentation. So much great information for our families. We hope you all have a wonderful rest of the week. Lisa, have an awesome admission season. Good luck with traveling and recruitment, and we hope to see you next year.
Great. Thank you so much, B.
All right, everybody, have a wonderful evening. We're going to go ahead and end the webinar now, and we'll see you at hopefully some other events this year. Okay, everybody, have a great night.